The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep rumble that echoed through the vast space. Ambassador Taeju Kim walked forward, his black diplomatic uniform sharp against the colorful array of alien representatives that filled the circular hall. Behind him, 4 other humans followed in a tight formation. Admiral Sora Park kept her hand near her ceremonial sword, her military training making her scan the room for threats. Trade Minister Woo Jin Lee carried a small data pad, his fingers moving nervously across its surface. Cultural attaché Hayan Choi observed the aliens with keen interest, noting every gesture and sound they made. The chamber was huge, built to hold representatives from over 200 different worlds. Floating platforms held the aquatic cetarians in their water tanks. Crystal formations housed the silicon-based lithoids. Traditional seats accommodated the more humanoid species. The air itself buzzed with translation devices working overtime to convert thousands of different languages into something everyone could understand. At the center of the chamber sat Council Prime Velter, an andromedan whose blue skin seemed to glow under the artificial lights. His 6 arms moved constantly as he communicated through both speech and gesture. Around him, the most powerful species in the galaxy waited. Ambassador Kim Beltaran's voice boomed through the speaker. Your species has requested this emergency session. The entire galaxy waits to understand why humans have abandoned every agreement they have made with us. TJO stopped at the designated speaking platform. The silence in the chamber was complete, except for the gentle humming of life support systems. He looked up at the hundreds of alien faces staring down at him. We have not abandoned anything, TJO said clearly. We simply never agreed to what you think we agreed to. A wave of confused sounds rippled through the chamber. The insectoid representative from Kepler 442b clicked his mandibles rapidly. Explain this riddle, human. Your species signed the Proxima mining accords 3 years ago. Yesterday, your mining ship stopped all operations and left our space. Admiral Sora Park stepped forward slightly. Those ships belonged to private companies. When they learned the real terms of the mining agreement, they chose to leave. Chose. The word came from a crystalline collective speaker whose body flashed different colors as it spoke. Your ambassador signed binding documents. Your species is bound by law. Which law? Asked Woo Jin Lee, his voice calm but firm. Human law. We never voted on these agreements. Galactic law. We never understood what we were really signing. Council Primar raised all 6 arms for silence. The translation protocols were perfect. Every document was converted into your human languages. Hijin Choi spoke for the first time. Translation is not understanding. You translated your words into our languages, but you never translated your concepts into our culture. The chamber erupted in noise. Representatives turned to each other, speaking in rapid bursts of their native tongues. Some aliens seemed angry, others confused. A few appeared frightened. Order, Belter commanded. Explain what you mean, human. TJO looked around the chamber slowly. When I signed those documents 3 years ago, I was one human speaking for myself. I had no right to speak for 8 billion others. But you are their ambassador, protested the Satarian representative, her voice bubbling through her water tank. Your government sent you to represent them. My government was elected by less than half of our population, TJO replied. Even if every human had voted for them, they still couldn't force individual humans to honor agreements they never made. Admiral Sora Park added, in human culture we believe each person must choose for themselves. No one can force another human to work, trade, or fight against their will. The silence that followed was different from before. This was not confusion but shock. The aliens were beginning to understand that something fundamental had been wrong. From the start, Impossible whispered. The Zephyrian trade minister, how can a species function without central authority? How do you coordinate anything? We cooperate when we choose to, Wu Jinli answered, but cooperation cannot be forced, it must be earned. Velterin leaned forward, his blue skin darkening. Are you saying that every agreement between humanity and the galaxy is void? We are saying they were never valid to begin with, TJO said firmly. You cannot make agreements with people who do not understand what they are agreeing to. You cannot bind people who never consented to be bound. The representative from the banking consortium, a floating crystal entity, began pulsing with red light. The economic implications if human commitments are unreliable. They are not unreliable, Hygiene interrupted. They simply do not exist. You have been operating under false assumptions about how humans make decisions, but your military helped us defend the outer rim, protested the Andromedan defense coordinator. Your soldiers fought and died for galactic peace, Admiral Sora Park's expression hardened. Our soldiers volunteered. Every single one chose to fight, but they can also choose to stop fighting if they believe the cause is unjust. And they do believe that now. Felter asked quietly. Many are beginning to question agreements they never made. Sora Park replied, when people learn they were committed to things without their knowledge or consent, they tend to feel betrayed. The chamber fell silent. Again, the weight of the revelation was sinking in. Every trade deal, every military alliance, every cooperative agreement between humanity and the galaxy was built on a fundamental misunderstanding. What do you want from us? Velarun finally asked. TJO straightened his shoulders. We want to start over. We want real agreements made with real understanding between species who respect each other as equals. And if we refuse, Admiral Sora Park spoke quietly, but her words carried clearly through the chamber, then humans will make their own choices about their future. Some may choose to honor old agreements, others will not. The choice belongs to each individual human. The implications hit the assembled aliens like a shock wave. Humanity was not negotiating. They were not making demands or threats. They were simply stating facts about their nature that no one had bothered to understand before. We need time to consider this, Balaran said, his voice shaking slightly. Of course, Tejo nodded. We have waited 20 years to be properly understood. We can wait a little longer. As the human delegation turned to leave, every alien in the chamber knew that everything had changed. The galaxy they thought they knew had just revealed itself to be built on foundations of sand. Dr. Yunsu Yun stood before the largest holographic display the Galactic Council had ever seen. The projection filled the entire center of the chamber, showing complex diagrams that made many aliens shift uncomfortably in their Seats, she wore simple gray clothes, but her presence commanded attention from every representative in the room. 3 days ago, you asked us to explain how humans think, she began, her voice clear and steady. Today I will show you why every agreement you made with us was impossible from the start. The first image appeared in the hologram. It showed the brain structure of an Andromedan with bright lines connecting different regions. Council Prime Velter. Your species evolved from hive insects. Your individual consciousness is connected to every other Andromedan through quantum entanglement in your neural tissue. Belter nodded slowly. This is common knowledge. When you make a decision, Yunsu continued, you are not just making it for yourself. Your choice becomes part of a shared network that influences every member of your species. When you signed agreements with humans, you believed you were speaking for humanity the same way you speak for Andromedans. The image changed to show the crystalline collective structure. Your species shared a single consciousness, distributed across multiple bodies. When one crystal speaks, all crystals agree, because there is only one mind. You, the collective representative, pulsed bright blue. Correct. We cannot understand how individual consciousness could function without connection to the whole. Yunu gestured and new images appeared. The Satyrians have genetic memories shared across their entire species. The Zaparians communicate through pheromones that create instant consensus. The Lithuds think as a planetary organism. She paused and looked around the chamber. Every species in this galaxy has some form of collective decision-making. When your representatives sign agreements, they truly represent their entire species because they are their entire species in some way. Admiral Sora Park stepped forward. Now show them human brain structure. The hologram shifted to display a human brain. Unlike the other images, this one showed no connecting lines to other brains. It stood alone, isolated completely. Individual humans, Yunu said quietly, are the only known species in the galaxy with true individual consciousness. When a human makes a decision, it affects only that human. We cannot speak for each other because we cannot think for each other. The silence in the chamber was complete. Many aliens stared at the display as if seeing something impossible. Yulai hissed, the insectoid representative. No species could survive with such chaos. How do you coordinate? How do you make group decisions? We argue, said Trade Minister Wu Jin Li with a slight smile. We debate, we vote, sometimes we agree, sometimes we do not. We have wars, elections, revolutions, and peace treaties, all because we cannot force each other to think the same way. Council Prime Velter's blue skin had turned pale. Are you saying that when Ambassador Teju signed our agreements, he was not representing humanity? He was representing only himself. Confirmed Yunu. He thought he was representing Earth's government, but even Earth's government cannot speak for humans who disagree with it. Cultural attaché Hijin Choi activated another display. Let me show you how human government actually works. In our last global election, only 4.2 billion humans voted out of 8.3 billion total. Of those who voted, 2.1 billion chose the current government. That means our representative government actually represents about 25% of humanity. The rest simply ignored the election. Asked the Satyrian representative, her voice bubbling with confusion. Some could not Vote due to age or legal restrictions. Hadjian explained, others chose not to. Vote because they disagreed with all candidates, others forgot to vote. Others were too busy with their own lives to care about politics. Banking Consortium representative flashed red. And GT, how can such a system function? And GT, how do you maintain order? We don't. Admiral Sora Park said bluntly, humans are constantly in disagreement about everything. We have thousands of different governments, millions of different companies, billions of different opinions, what you call chaos. We call freedom, Yun Su brought up. Another display showing human population distribution. When you made agreements about human labor, you assumed our governments could deliver workers. But humans work only when they choose to work. They can quit any job, move to any place, change their minds at any time. When you made military agreements, Sora Park added, you assumed our armies would obey orders forever, but human soldiers volunteer to serve. They can resign, refuse orders they consider immoral, or simply desert if they disagree with a war. The Zephyrian trade minister released stress pheromones that made nearby aliens back away. This explains the production shortfalls. We ordered materials from human factories, but the workers simply stopped working. Many did, confirmed Wu Jin Li, when they learned their labor was being used to fulfill agreements they never made. They felt betrayed. Some quit immediately, others demanded better pay. A few actually increased production because they supported galactic cooperation, but without coordination, without central authority. How do humans accomplish anything? Belterin asked desperately. Hygiene smiled. We cooperate when we want to. When humans choose to work together, we can accomplish incredible things. We built faster than light ships, explored the galaxy, and created technologies that impressed you enough to invite us into your community. The key word emphasized is choose. Humans cooperate by choice, not by compulsion. Force us and we rebel. Ask us and we might surprise you. Admiral Sora Park gestured to the hologram showing galactic trade routes. Half of these routes depend on human ships and human crews, but those crews are not slaves. They work because they are paid well and treated fairly. Change the terms without asking them, and they will find other jobs. The Tau City mining operation failed. Wu Jin Li continued because miners were told they had to work there for 5 years. When they learned this, most simply came home. A few stayed because they actually enjoyed the work. Council Prime Velterin looked around the chamber at his fellow representatives. Many seemed to be in shock. Others appeared confused or frightened. Dr. Yun, he said slowly, are you telling us that individual humans can simply ignore agreements made by their representatives? I am telling you that humans have always ignored such agreements, Unsu replied. You just never noticed because you did not understand what to look for. She activated a final display showing human migration patterns over the past 20 years. Look at this data. Humans constantly move between worlds, chain jobs, start new businesses, join different organizations. What you interpreted as a stable, controllable population was actually 8 billion individuals making independent choices. Every day, the revelation hit the aliens like a physical blow. Everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. Every assumption about human Behavior was based on their own collective nature, not on how humans actually lived. What do we do now? Whispered the crystalline collective. Representative. Admiral Sora Park looked around the chamber with something that might have been sympathy. Now you learn to deal with humans as we actually are, not as you imagine us to be. Minister Jin Wang opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick stack of documents. The sound of paper rustling echoed through the silent galactic council chamber. Every alien representative watched him with growing dread as he placed the papers on the speaking platform. These, he said calmly, are legal analyses of every major agreement between humanity and the galactic community. My team has spent the last 6 months reviewing them under human legal principles. Council Prime. Velterin leaned forward, his 6 arms gripping his chair tightly. What did you find? Complete legal invalidity, Jin Wu replied without emotion. Not a single agreement meets the basic requirements for binding human consent. He picked up the first document, the Proxima Mining Accords. This agreement committed 50,000 human workers to 5-year contracts on Proxima 7. However, only 847 humans actually signed individual contracts. The rest were assigned by Earth's colonial administration without their knowledge. The insectoid representative clicked his mandibles rapidly. But your government has the authority to assign workers. No, Jinwu said firmly. Human governments cannot force citizens to work specific jobs. That is called slavery, and it is forbidden under our most basic laws. Admiral Sora Park stepped forward. When humans learned they had been assigned to work on Proxima 7 without their consent, 97% refused to go. The few who went were volunteers who actually wanted the work. The banking consortium representative flashed bright red, but the economic projections, the production quotas, how can we plan anything if human labor commitments are meaningless? They are not meaningless, corrected Trade Minister Wu Jinli. They are simply different from what you expected. Humans will work when they choose to work and are fairly compensated for their labor. Jin Wu picked up another document, the Outer Rim Defense Treaty. This commit human military forces to defend 23-star systems. However, our analysis shows that human soldiers were never informed they would be fighting in foreign wars. Cultural attaché Hijin Choi activated a holographic display showing recruitment statistics. Human military recruitment is entirely voluntary. Soldiers signed contracts to defend Earth and human colonies. They did not agree to fight in wars for alien species they had never heard of, but they did fight, protested the Andromedan Defense Coordinator. Human soldiers died defending our world. Admiral Sora Park's expression grew serious. They fought because their commanders told them it was necessary to protect Earth. When they learned the truth about the treaty obligations, many units voted to return home immediately. The Cetarian representative's water tank bubbled with distress. Voted military units cannot vote on their orders. Human military units can, Sora Park replied. Our soldiers are citizens first. Soldiers second. They have the right to refuse orders they consider illegal or immoral. Jinwu continued through his documents. The technology sharing initiative. This agreement gave galactic species access to human research and development. However, 73% of human Scientists never agreed to share their work. Dr. Yoon-Soo Yun stepped forward. Human scientists share knowledge freely when they choose to, but they also have the right to keep their discoveries private, sell them to the highest bidder, or share them only with people they trust. The Tao City Agricultural Program. Jin Woo read from another paper. This committed human farmers to produce food for 12 alien colonies. The farmers were never consulted and never agreed to these production quotas. The Zephyrian trade minister released stress pheromones. But food production is essential. How can farmers simply refuse to grow food? They can grow whatever they want, explained Woo Jin Lee. Human farmers are private business owners. They decide what to plant, where to sell it, and how much to charge. No government can force them to grow specific crops for specific customers. Hijin brought up another display showing current food production levels. Interestingly, when human farmers learned about the alien colonies' food needs, many chose to increase production, but they demanded fair prices and direct trade relationships instead of government-mandated quotas. Jin Woo picked up a particularly thick document, the Colonial Expansion Accords. This agreement established human settlements on 47 worlds as part of a galactic terraforming project. However, the settlers were never told they were part of an alien economic development plan. They thought they were pioneers seeking new lives. Admiral Sora Park added, when they learned their colonies were meant to serve alien economic interests, most declared independence from both Earth and the galactic community. The silence in the chamber was broken only by the sound of translation devices struggling to process the growing chaos of alien languages. As representatives spoke frantically to each other, Council Prime Velterin raised all 6 arms for silence. Minister Kang, are you saying that every single agreement between our species is legally void under human law? Yes, Jin Woo replied, but that does not mean all cooperation must end. It means we need new agreements based on actual consent from the humans involved. Crystalline collective representative pulsed rapidly through different colors. How can we make agreements with 8 billion individuals? The complexity is impossible. You do not need agreements with 8 billion individuals, Hijin explained patiently. You need agreements with the humans who actually want to work with you. Many humans are eager to trade, explore, and cooperate with alien species, but they want to do it by choice, not by compulsion. Captain Yang Suhan entered the chamber and approached the speaking platform. He wore the uniform of Earth's Independent Fleet Command, an organization that had not existed 6 months ago. I represent 2.3 million human military personnel who have chosen to continue honoring defense agreements with alien species, he announced. But we do so as volunteers, not as conscripts. We fight when and where we choose to fight. Admiral Sora Park nodded approvingly. Captain Han's fleet represents about 40% of human military forces. The rest have chosen different paths. Some returned to Earth to defend human colonies, others formed independent mercenary companies. A few became pirates. The word came from multiple aliens simultaneously. Freedom includes the freedom to make bad choices, Sora Park said with a slight smile. We warned you that humans are unpredictable. Jin Woo picked up his final document, the Galactic Trade Standardization Agreement. This Establish common currencies, trade, regulations, and economic policies. Across all member species, humans never voted on this agreement, and it violates several human economic principles. Wu Jin Li stepped forward. Human companies can trade in any currency they choose. They can set their own prices, choose their own customers, and ignore regulations they consider unfair. No central authority can control human economic activity. The banking consortium representative was now flashing so rapidly between colors that it was hard to look at directly. The entire galactic economy depends on predictable trade relationships. If humans can simply ignore economic agreements, then you will need to make those agreements attractive enough that humans want to honor them. Wu Jinli finished. Competition, choice, and voluntary cooperation produce better results than forced compliance. Council Prime Terran looked around the chamber at the growing chaos. Many alien representatives were in heated discussions with their advisors. Others sat in stunned silence. A few appeared to be having what humans might recognize as panic attacks. What do you propose we do? He asked quietly. Ambassador Taeju Kim, who had remained silent throughout the presentation, finally spoke. We propose that you learn to work with humans as partners instead of as resources to be managed. We propose that you discover what happens when cooperation is based on mutual benefit instead of legal compulsion. He paused and looked around the chamber. We propose that you find out what humanity can accomplish when we choose to work with you instead of being forced to work for you. The chamber fell silent as the full implications of humanity's revelation sank in. The galaxy was about to discover what 8 billion individuals could do when they were finally free to choose their own destinies. Dr. Myung stood at the center of the Galactic Council chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing charts, graphs, and legal documents. The assembled alien representatives looked exhausted after 3 days of continuous sessions, but their attention remained focused on her every word. You have asked what humans need for valid agreements, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. Today I will explain the minimum requirements for any binding contract with human beings. Council Prime Veltarin gestured with 2 of his 6 arms. Please proceed, Dr. Song. The galaxy is listening. The first holographic display showed a simple flowchart. Individual informed consent, Myung announced. Every human affected by an agreement must personally understand and approve of their participation. What does that mean in practical terms? Asked the Cytarian representative, her voice bubbling through her water tank. It means, said environmental coordinator Dawn Kim, stepping forward, that if you want humans to work in your mines, every single miner must know exactly what they will be doing, where they will be working, how long they will be there, what they will be paid, and what risks they will face. The insect representative clicked his mandibles nervously. But that could involve millions of individual contracts. Yes, Dahun replied simply. If you want millions of humans to work for you, you need millions of agreements. Humans do not come in bulk packages. Myung activated the next display. Transparent information disclosure. Humans must know all relevant facts before making decisions. Hidden terms, secret clauses, and undisclosed consequences make any agreement invalid. Industrial production. Chief Zhongho Park approached the platform carrying a data tablet. For example, the Kepler manufacturing. Accords committed human factories to produce 500 million units of quantum processors annually. However, the human factory owners were never told these processors would be used in weapon systems. When they learned the truth, he continued, 78% of the factory stopped production immediately. The remaining 22% demanded triple pay and the right to inspect all induce applications. Banking consortium representative flashed bright orange, but such transparency could compromise trade secrets and strategic advantages. Then you must choose, said trade specialist in Ho Choi, joining the group at the platform. Do you want human cooperation, or do you want to keep your secrets? You cannot have both. Myung moved to the third display, democratic ratification. Agreements affecting large numbers of humans must be approved through genuine democratic processes. The Andromeden defense coordinator leaned forward. Explain this requirement. Human governments can only make binding commitments when they have clear authorization from the people they represent, explained military coordinator Sujin Kim. This means real elections with real choices, not the ceremonial votes you witnessed during our admission to the galactic community. Admiral Sora Park stepped forward. The Outer Rim Defense Treaty was never put to a democratic vote. If it had been, human voters would have demanded to know exactly which battles they were committing their soldiers to fight, and many would have voted against it, added Captain Young Suhin. Humans are not automatically willing to die for alien causes. We need to be convinced that the cause is just and the methods are honorable. The fourth display appeared, showing legal frameworks. Right of withdrawal. Myung announced, humans must always retain the right to change their minds and leave agreements that no longer serve their interests. Crystalline collective representative pulsed rapidly through multiple colors. But long-term planning requires stable commitment. How can we invest in projects if humans can simply abandon them? You plan for the possibility that some humans will leave, said Dr. Kyo Yuan Men Lee, representing Earth Science collectives, and you make your projects attractive enough that humans want to stay. He activated a personal holographic display. The Andromeda research station lost 60% of its human staff when they learned about the withdrawal prohibition clause, but the remaining 40% have produced breakthrough discoveries because they are there by choice, not by compulsion. Myung moved to the final main display. Compensation for past violations. Any new agreements must address the harm caused by previous invalid contracts. The chamber erupted in noise as alien representatives spoke frantically to each other. The economic implications were staggering. What kind of compensation? Belter asked. When order was restored, Minister Jin Woo Kang stepped forward with a thick document. We have calculated the economic value of forced human labor, conscripted military service, and involuntary resource extraction over the past 20 years. The number that appeared in the hologram made several aliens gasp audibly. Impossible, shrieked the Zephyrian trade minister. The galactic economy cannot absorb such costs. Then you will need to find creative solutions, said Ambassador Taeju Kim calmly. Perhaps long-term payment plans, perhaps trade credits, perhaps valuable technology transfers, or added Wu Jinli with a slight smile. You could offer humans something we actually want in exchange for forgiveness of past debts. Environmental Coordinator Dawn Kim activated another display. For example, many humans would gladly forgive economic damages in exchange for access to advanced terraforming technology. We have many worlds that could benefit from your environmental engineering expertise. Industrial Production Chief Sun Ho Park nodded. Human manufacturers would consider debt forgiveness in exchange for advanced material science. Your crystalline composites could revolutionize our construction industry. What you call compensation, Dr. Kyung Min Lee added, could become the foundation for genuine partnership. Instead of taking from humans, you could be trading with humans. Myung activated a new set of displays showing potential cooperation models. These are examples of agreements that would meet human requirements for validity. The first example showed a mining operation, voluntary miners working for competitive wages with full knowledge of risks and working conditions. Contracts can be terminated by either party with reasonable notice. Profits shared between miners, management, and local communities. The second showed a military alliance, volunteer soldiers serving specific missions for specific time periods. Clear rules of engagement, the right to refuse orders that violate human military ethics, regular rotation back to Earth for rest and retraining. Third showed a trade relationship, human companies choosing to accept alien contracts based on transparent terms and fair pricing, no production quotas that companies cannot meet, no exclusive dealing arrangements that prevent humans from trading with other species. Captain Young Suhan stepped forward. I have 50,000 human soldiers ready to honor existing defense commitments under these new terms. They know exactly what they are fighting for and why. They are more effective than twice that number of conscripted troops. Industrial Production Chief Sun Ho Park nodded. Human companies are already negotiating new contracts under these principles. Production efficiency has increased 40% because workers understand and support their goals. The most important thing to understand, Myung concluded, is that these requirements are not obstacles to cooperation. They are the foundation for better cooperation. She gestured to all the displays around her. When humans choose to work with you, when they understand what they are doing, when they are fairly treated and justly compensated, they will accomplish things that forced labor never could. Council Prime Velterin looked around the chamber at his fellow representatives. Many appeared overwhelmed by the complexity of what humans were proposing. Others seemed intrigued by the possibilities. Dr. Song, he said slowly, you are asking us to completely restructure how the galaxy conducts business. We are asking you to treat humans as equals instead of as resources. Myung replied, the choice of whether to restructure galactic business practices is yours to make. Ambassador Taeju Kim stepped forward for the final word. We have shown you what humans require for genuine cooperation. We have explained why previous agreements were invalid. We have offered solutions that benefit everyone. He paused and looked around the chamber. Now you must decide whether you want to work with humanity or whether you prefer to work without us. Either choice is acceptable to us as Long as it is honestly made, the chamber fell silent as the weight of humanity's ultimatum settled over the assembled aliens. The galaxy was being forced to choose between its old ways and an uncertain but potentially revolutionary future. Ambassador Taeju Kim stood before the Galactic Council one final time, but this time he was not alone. Behind him stood representatives from dozens of independent human organizations that had formed during the 6 months of negotiations. The chamber buzzed with nervous energy as alien representatives waited to hear humanity's final terms. The chaos you feared has become our strength, TJO began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space. When humans were freed from agreements they never made, they did not retreat into isolation. They organized themselves in ways that surprised even us. He gestured to the woman beside him. Commander Jiha Park represents the independent mining consortium formed by 200,000 human miners who chose to continue working in alien space under fair contracts. Jiha stepped forward, her mining gear replaced by a crisp business suit. My miners voted to honor existing commitments to 17 alien worlds, but under new terms. We work 8-hour shifts instead of 12. We receive hazard pay for dangerous conditions. We rotate home every 6 months instead of staying for years, and our production has increased by 35%, she added with a smile. Happy miners work harder than forced miners. The insectoid representative clicked his mandibles rapidly. But the contracts, the legal frameworks, how do we manage hundreds of individual agreements the same way humans manage millions of employment contracts every day, replied trade specialist in Ho Choi. With computers, automation, and standardized terms that individuals can understand and modify, TJO introduced the next representative, Engineer Dong Hun Kim, speaks for the Fusion Collective, a voluntary association of 50,000 human scientists and engineers. Dong Hyun activated a holographic display showing fusion reactor designs. We have shared our latest breakthrough in fusion technology with 12 alien species, not because we were forced to, but because they offered us valuable knowledge in return. Dr. Kyoung Min Lee stepped forward. The crystalline collective taught us new materials, science. The Andromedans shared quantum computing advances. The Cetarians provided bioengineering techniques. When cooperation is voluntary, everyone benefits more than when it is forced. Council Prime Velterin leaned forward, his blue skin showing signs of stress. But what about large-scale projects? Galactic infrastructure, defense against external threats, military coordinator. Sujin Kim approached the platform. Captain Young Suhan now commands a fleet of 300,000 human volunteers from 47 different Earth nations and 23 independent colonies. They serve not because governments order them to, but because they believe in defending peaceful species against aggression. Captain Han stepped forward, his uniform bearing new insignia that represented multiple human factions. Last month, my fleet successfully defended the Proxima system against void hunters. Our success rate has improved 60% because every soldier knows exactly why they are fighting. Voluntary soldiers fight better than conscripted ones, Admiral Sora Park added. They think for themselves, adapt to changing conditions, and protect each other because they choose to be there. The banking consortium representative flashed nervous yellow patterns. What About economic stability, how can we plan investments if human participation is unpredictable? Economic coordinator Haywen Young, representing the New Human Trade Federation, stepped forward with a data tablet. Human economic participation is not unpredictable. It is responsive to market conditions. She activated a display showing trade flowcharts. When you offer fair prices and honest terms, humans compete to work with you. When you try to exploit us, we find better opportunities elsewhere. This is not chaos, it is market efficiency. For example, added industrial production chief X manufacturers received 400% more orders from alien species after we established transparent pricing and quality guarantees. Aliens trust human products more when they know humans are building them willingly. Environmental coordinator Dun Kim stepped forward carrying soil samples from multiple worlds. The Terraforming Coalition represents 80,000 human agriculturalists and environmental engineers. We are currently improving the atmosphere and soil conditions on 34 alien worlds. The difference, she explained, is that we work with alien ecosystems instead of destroying them. When humans choose to help, we find creative solutions that forced labor could never discover. Dr. Miang Song approached with a group of aliens wearing human-made translation devices. The Cultural Exchange Initiative has established direct relationships between human communities and alien communities. Without government interference, we have learned more about each other in 6 months than in the previous 20 years. One of the aliens, a young Andromedan, spoke through the translation device. I lived with a human family on Earth for 3 months. They taught me individual decision-making. I taught them collective harmony. We found balance between our ways of thinking. Council Prime Velterin stood up, all 6 arms trembling slightly. Are you saying that the galaxy works better when humans make their own choices? We are saying, TGO replied, that cooperation works better than coercion for any species, not just humans. Communications Director Sunmi Lee activated a galaxy-wide broadcast system. We are transmitting these proceedings to every human community in known space. As we speak, 8 billion humans are learning about the choices available to them. The chamber's main display showed real-time responses from human communities across the galaxy, millions of acceptance messages for voluntary cooperation agreements, thousands of applications to join various human collectives, hundreds of new proposals for human-alien partnerships. This is remarkable, whispered the Satarian representative. Humans are organizing themselves faster than our collective consciousness can process. Dr. Yun smiled. Individual consciousness is more flexible than collective consciousness. When each person can think independently, solutions emerge that no single mind could imagine. Technology Coordinator Minyu Bei stepped forward with a device none of the aliens recognized. This is a quantum communicator built through voluntary cooperation between human engineers and lithium crystals. It provides instantaneous communication across galactic distances. Impossible, gasped the crystalline collective representative. Our science indicated such technology would require centuries of development. Your science assumed forced cooperation between species who barely understood each other. Minyu replied, voluntary cooperation between species who respect Each other can accomplish impossible things. Ambassador Taeju Kim gestured to all the human representatives around him. This is our counter offer to the galaxy. Not a single agreement signed by distant governments, but thousands of voluntary partnerships between humans and aliens who choose to work together. You wanted to control humanity through our governments, Admiral Sora Park added. Instead, you can cooperate with humanity through our free associations. The chamber fell silent as the full implications became clear. The aliens were not being offered a new version of their old system. They were being invited to participate in something completely different. What happens if we refuse? Asked Velter quietly. Then humans continue to make their own choices, TJO replied. Some will work with alien species who treat them fairly. Others will focus on human projects and human worlds. The galaxy will continue to function, but without forced human participation. He paused and looked around the chamber. But if you accept, you will discover what 8 billion free individuals can accomplish when they choose to work with you, instead of being forced to work for you. Cultural attaché Jin Choi stepped forward for the final statement. We have shown you that human chaos can become human creativity. We have proven that human unpredictability can become human innovation. We offer you a partnership between equals instead of a contract between master and servant. The choice, Ambassador Taeju Kim concluded, is yours to make, but choose quickly, because humans are already building the future, with or without you. As the human delegation prepared to leave, the chamber erupted in frantic discussions among the alien representatives. The galaxy stood at a crossroads, and the path they chose would determine whether humanity's revolution would transform galactic civilization or leave it behind entirely.